This is my school and this is my learning zone. I'm Pranjal, a full-time high school student. In my free time, I find the opportunities to have conversations with professionals from various walks of life. Over time, I have learned that you have to be humble, work hard, and be a lifelong learner to be successful in life. I invite you to join me in one such journey. I hope you enjoy it. Today on my show, I have a very special guest. He has over 35 years of experience in the agrochemical, seeds, and agriculture industry. His name is Mr. Satish Patil, and he is currently the president of Atul Limited. He has vast experience in project management, CRM, and a multitude of other different professions. So let's hear more from him and learn more about his journey. Please welcome Mr. Satish Patil.
Thank you. Thank you, Pranjal. It's a pleasure for me to talk to you.
Thank you for finding the time to be here. So, Mr. Satish Patil, you have a very vast career and you've held positions such as the national sales head and now ultimately president. Are there some certain values and core teachings that you carry on with you that have propelled you to this level of success?
Core values basically that has driven my journey all along has been etched on my mind right from the beginning of my childhood. Being the eldest child in the family, there has always been a lot of emphasis on being a responsible, a sincere, and be focused on career and education. And because of that kind of an upbringing, I throughout my journey, I remained that way, very focused, dedicated, fully motivated, and in charge of my progress in terms of my own dedication. I think these are the core values which have helped me to shape up my career. So I didn't waste my time in distractions.
Right. Okay. So you said you are the eldest son of how many siblings? How many siblings?
So we've three of them. Unfortunately, I lost the youngest one a couple of years ago. So now we have two of us, and I'm the eldest.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry for your loss. Would you say, being the eldest son, what kind of responsibilities did you take on that focused your attention span to be so sharp and far away from distractions?
So it was always told to me that the youngest are going to learn from you how you behave. So if you're not focusing on your studies, then they will also try to do the same.
Right.
So that kind of a burden was there on my mind that I should always be perceived as a respectable elder brother and a good brother, kinds of things, because I belong to a generation which is a couple of decades away. So those values, those days were very different.
So your responsibilities of being a role model, I assume, also carried on to your academic life, where you would solely focus on academics. And did you focus on any extracurriculars?
Yes, I was quite involved in debating
Right.
because I had very less or almost negligible stage fear. I could go to the dais and address the audience, and I used to participate in dramas. I had also been a part of a music band because I was interested in music right from my childhood, and I used to play an instrument called banjo. So I used to play that instrument in the music band. So these were a couple of extracurricular activities that I've been doing along with my study.
So were you naturally gifted at public speaking or debate, or did you have to work your way up to it?
Well, that's really very interesting. I wouldn't say I was naturally gifted, but there's one particular technique which was told when I was 5 year old by my teacher, and that created the level of confidence at that young age. If you have time, I may tell you the small anecdote how it happened.
Yes, we have time. Please, I would love to hear
Yeah.
the story.
So as a 5 year old child, and in our class there were those days maybe 10 or 15 the students, and there was India's Independence Day coming, and we were asked if anybody would like to make a speech or give a speech, and nobody was willing. I was also not willing. Finally, since I was academically, or at least in terms of my academic orientation, perceived as the brightest of the boys, so I was asked and nominated by my teacher to deliver the speech. So it was huge stress for me. How am I going to do it? Because I've never done before. But they helped me with preparation of the speech. They gave me some content. My mom gave me some content. And those days, of course, not any training was available for public speaking, but I just focused on, first of all, mugging up the whole content. So I knew that what I'm going to talk.
Yeah.
But when I was actually put on the dais, I was a small, tiny boy. So somebody lifted me up like that and put me on the dais. And when I looked at the staff, because they were all elders, they were all staff of the sugar mill where my dad was working. And there were, I think, maybe 300 plus people listening. And to me, it sounded like, it looked like an ocean of people. And I've never seen from that dais such large amount of audience looking at me, and I started trembling. My legs were trembling and a little bit, and I was little. I lost. I completely forgot my speech that I had prepared, and it was looking like it's a disaster. But at the same time, my eyesight went to the teacher who was sitting in the very first row, and he was just looking at me in a very encouraging way, and with his facial gestures, he was smiling and giving me that confidence, and he just say like that, look at me only. So then I only looked at him, and my memories of the speech came back, and I started saying one sentence, second sentence, third sentence, and then he was giving me a thumbs up, and that encouraged. And then I started getting the confidence. Then my vision started going one more row behind. Then I could now see 10 people, one more row behind. And then, like that, at one point in time, I was looking at the whole audience and I was delivering the speech. At the end of the speech, then they all clapped. And then that gave me a belief that yes, I can do it. And that was such a solid belief etched on my mind right at that stage. It lasted, and it is still lasting all my life, that I can face an audience. These days, we go to the farmer meetings, and even if there's a gathering of around 1,000 farmers, it's easy for me to go and address them. And that confidence also helped me in taking part in drama and playing roles on the dais.
Wow, truly impressive. So this experience is what propelled, you would say, your interest in public speaking and the arts.
I would say so. It gave me at least the necessary confidence.
Right, right. So you finished school, and then now you're going to apply to university. Being the brightest student, what was the process for you like? Was it as stressful as everybody else, or were you more relaxed, seeing that you had a good academic track record from here onwards and it would practically work out for you?
Well, actually, it was still full of stress because the goal that I was chasing those days was a tough one. There were not as many seats available for medicine, and those days, only two professions were considered respectable. One was medicine, and one was engineering, and between them also there was a hierarchy. Medicine was number one, and engineering was number two. So I was preparing very hard. I was good at biology and subjects which are required for getting into medicine. But it so happened that I lost that seat by just one single mark, and I wasn't selected. It felt bad, but then next best was dentistry, and then I got an admission for that as well. But finally, my father convinced me that instead of being a dentist, better to be an agricultural engineer, through which I had got an admission. It was a BTech degree, and he said, India, an agricultural driven country, you will have good career. So I listened to that and went in for BTech and did my agricultural engineering.
The shift.
But yes, it was a stressful period. Yes.
Yes, yes. I mean, I can definitely relate. It's time for me, almost time for me to submit my college applications, and the stress is definitely there.
Yes.
So
But then I have a small piece of advice for you. You
yes.
know what it seemed like to me at that stage, without knowledge of what my future is going to shape up like. I felt that it is a disaster that what I couldn't get into medicine, and
Yeah.
now I'm have a very substandard quality of life and things like that. How stupid I was, because now today, if I have to go back in time and choose the career, I would have now chosen what I'm doing, because this life has given me many more things which I couple of my friends who've gotten into medicine, they are not able to get the kind of privileges that I have here. So sometimes, it seems to us at that stage that this is the right goal, and if you don't get that, that means it's not the best thing. But you never know how the life will shape up going forward, because so you're so young. So I think my advice to you would be, while it's no harm in chasing a particular career, but if you don't get that, and if you get something else, you can still make very good out of it, a very
Yeah.
good outcome from that.
It is difficult to keep in mind, but it is important. Since as of now, it just seems like it's life or death. Either you get it or you don't. But yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So you mentioned you had a BTech degree and then you shifted to agriculture. This is a very interesting career change. Was it solely done because of your father's advice or?
No, so I did not move from BTech to agriculture. The degree was BTech in agricultural engineering.
Ah,
It
okay.
was a new subject those days, which was a hybrid of three branches of engineering, which is mechanical, civil, and electrical engineering, and application of those theories and practices to agriculture. So
Okay.
first 2 years, we will learn these three engineering subjects, and the balance 2 years, application of that in agriculture.
Right.
So this is how it was. What I shifted from, under the advice of my father, was from a BDS, which is a dentistry course.
Right, right. Yes, as you said. Okay. Makes sense. So you get your degree from the University of Maharashtra, and then you also get it from Mumbai University. Now, education has drastically changed from back then to now. Do you have any advice that you could give to students about how to be focused in an age that is full of distractions? For example, myself, I end up procrastinating a lot and I struggle to focus on a single task at hand. With you being able to master the focus and discipline, do you have any advice that you could give these type of students?
Yes, I have a very clear thought in this matter. We were really lucky those days that we didn't have a lot of avenues available for getting distracted. For example, when I did my schooling, there was no television in India. Forget
Yeah,
about mobile phones and all other things.
right.
So, and I had a rural life, so there were no movie theaters and there was no other formats of entertainment available except some outdoor games which you can play. But rest of the distractions were not there. So for us, relatively, it was easy to remain focused on study. The challenges in front of your generation is there are so many things which are beckoning I mean, there are so many avenues available to you if you want to do anything else other than study.
Yes.
That is really very difficult to break free from. And moreover, there's a huge peer pressure, which is one of the enemies. Sometimes it can work positively, but it can also work destructively. If there are all around you on social media seen enjoying life and getting into destructive elements of life, you it's very difficult then on for an individual to be different from rest, because then that also you become a social outcast. So you have to be
Yeah.
along with your friends. So therefore, to trade that balance and walk that balance of not getting too distracted at the same time being socially available to friends is going to be the key. But if you tell your mind that, look, I'm not going to be the slave of the dopamine. And what I mean by dopamine is anything else that you do which gives you pleasure, like social media, your likes and your Insta reels, everything, it's a dopamine that you get addicted to. So if you tell yourself, like in my childhood, we were told not to get addicted to those days, either alcohol or cigarettes or tobacco. But these days, the dopamine is a much bigger distractor, because what the pleasure sensations you get in your brain, and that gets you intoxicated. So
Yeah.
if you commit yourself not to get into dopamine addiction and everything that leads to that, you will be able to distinguish yourself or identify that it's a source of dopamine that is attracting you, and you will be able to ration your time. And another advice I would give you is, let's not do things in extreme. I would never advise anyone to be 100% focused only on studies. That is not sustainable. You need to have the right mix of some fun, some pleasure, some socializing, as well as the studies. So just what is that right balance for you? You can figure out based on advice from your elders, teachers, and parents, and they will guide you that you need to have quotas, and that discipline is required to restrict your time between these various.
Yeah. Very applicable advice, especially to my generation who practically struggle with these things on a day-to-day basis. So thank you for that. I want to move on to your career now. So you get your degree from your university, and then you go to your first job as a management trainee in Excel Industries. Can you tell us a bit about how you landed this opportunity and how can a student expect to get their first job?
So those days we were relatively luckier that fewer MMS seats were there. So by and large, everybody would get one or two offers
Okay.
at the campus itself. And I was also one who got the offer in the campus selection process. So it wasn't really a struggle for me to look for a job and apply everywhere else. These days, the students have to struggle even to get the summer placement.
Yeah.
In our case, of course, we had to struggle for getting summer placement because absence of social media and mobile phones and internet, etc., made it physical effort for us to walk. We used to walk to the telephone booth, find out the directory, use a lot of 50 paisa coins, carry it to the public phone, and dial the numbers from the telephone directories and call up and ask if you have a summer job for a student. It was a tough thing, but getting a final placement was relatively easy because the companies would come to campus for final placement. So I was selected. They looked at my agriculture background, though my course was in engineering, it has nothing to do with the agriculture. But they thought, okay, at least this boy seems to have some understanding of agriculture. And that company was engaged in agrochemicals.
Right.
So out of other students, I was the only one having that kind of a degree. So they interviewed me and they found me okay, and I got selected.
Awesome. So you get your first job, you land as a management trainee. This is, I would assume that this is your first job experience that you've held ever. So
Yes, in my times, there was no practice of finishing undergrad, then doing some work experience, and then doing postgrad. That wasn't the case. Normally, one finished entire education and then start the work. So this was my first job.
right. So how was the shift from being a full-time student to a full-time employee difficult? What new responsibilities that this add? And how did your value of your sharp focus transfer over from being a student to working?
Actually, it was very exciting, and we were all like at that stage to be able to earn your own money was so exciting that it was no struggle. I just jumped into the job with a great enthusiasm. When I joined the company, that is first ever somebody said there's a computer in this company. And my MBA, MMS, which I did, I have never seen a computer, how it looks like. So the first thing I went was to go and see how the computer is. And it was those days like a temple. You have to remove your shoes. And it's inside of an air-conditioned room. Rest of the office was non-air conditioned. So you are not allowed to touch it. You can just go and see the computer in operation. So that is how it started. But my dedication, yes, since it is ingrained in my DNA, whatever work was assigned to me, I continued to do it with full dedication. And it was considered quite good, and I was able to impress my seniors with that. But those days, I'll tell you one interesting thing, which a routine that I followed. Because I was very keen on learning computers, though it was my agricultural education, computers always fascinated me. But since my job did not involve any use of computer, I was told that you will be able to use it either before the office starts or after the office is over. So I used to, as a bachelor, I had no family, I was still light. So I used to come to the office early in the morning at 7. So I'll collect the key from the security guard and enter the office and go to the computer room. And those days it was Lotus 123. So somebody had just showed me basic commands of how to start the computer and start the program. And it is a self-learning using F1 key and all the time using the help. I used to read through the help and try and learn the operations. So I used to work till the office starts on computer, and then after the office is over in the evening, again I'll go back to the computer and go until midnight.
Oh,
So I
wow.
was the first to collect the keys, and I was again the last to hand over the keys at night. Go home and again come be the first to pick up the same keys in the morning from the security. So besides my work, I think this learning of computers was also very fast for me. and that helped me to get noticed in the minds of senior management, the way I learned things.
So what, was it just a natural fascination, or did you have sort of a hunch saying this is the future and this is going to dominate the industry?
So it was, I would say 80% of it was the natural fascination I had.
Right.
20% was the thought that it could be. I was honestly not able to foresee those days that this computer's knowledge would really help me to a great extent, but it did. But that wasn't the driver. The love for computers was the driver. And moreover, my brain is very analytical. That is one of my strengths as well as probably weaknesses. Is the love for being analytical about anything, numbers, text. So I used to effectively use computers and draw a lot of meaning out of set of data, which normal people will take longer time to understand. So with the
Right.
help of computer, I could draw the patterns. Yes.
Okay. Truly interesting. I want to touch on, so you were dedicated, you were first one to come and last one to leave. At any given time, did you feel like you were missing out on sort of the casual side of life, like the distraction filled side? Or was that not even in your consideration?
So to that extent, your question is right. I led a life which was a little imbalanced. It was like 100% was the work. There was no space left for fun. As I
Right.
look back, I think it wasn't such a great way of leading life. But you know, being coming from a rural area, eldest child in the family, there was such a heavy commitment in my mind to do it big in the private sector. My dad was dead against my choice of private sector for employment. He was strongly in favor of me finding a job in government sector with which has got a higher job security those days, and as well as facilities like pension and all. But I was not at all interested in doing a government job. So I had to now prove it also additionally to my father that what choice I have made is going to be good for me. So that was an additional reason that I was 24 by 7 thinking only about my work. Of course, it did help me in my very rapid career growth those days. But yes, I lost out on other elements of fun part and building some social networks.
Right. Okay. So you don't finish, you decide to move on to buy Crop Science, the company. How did you make this jump from your first job to your second job? How did you land this opportunity?
So when I was doing my MMS, we learned professional way of doing marketing and so many theories of marketing and examples of multinational companies who are executing various marketing programs. And I saw none of these were being applicable or used by my current employer. And being a very junior person in the organization, I had a very limited influence on making them change the way they do things.
Right.
So I was always nursing the dream that as soon as possible I should get into an MNC company, multinational company, who are a little bit more professional in doing things. So I get to learn better. And the second driver of my decision was being a global company, I would have an opportunity to work outside of India because I had a lot of attraction for seeing the world, going out of India and working out of India. And I thought only a multinational job would provide that opportunity to me. So these were the two drivers. And then I
So you make the transition to buy and you spend the next 22 years there. You slowly rise to the ranks, shifting from various different positions. What allowed you to rise to the corporate ranks? Is there something that is the secret to climbing the corporate ladder? And what lessons did you learn through each of the positions?
So, a couple of things. So, first of all, I must acknowledge that when I joined from Excel to Bayer, those days it was a company called Ron Pulonk. I had very professional situation there. My bosses were really not only knowledgeable, but they were also quite professionally running the company, and I got to learn a lot from them. Second thing I acknowledge is that I was blessed with a good set of colleagues who were equally dedicated because the way the company was being run, they had created an atmosphere in which all the employees felt highly motivated to give their best.
Right.
And then when everybody is working to give his or her best, And if you're working in that set of environment, then obviously that's a blessing, because then you always produce very good results. So these are the external things which help me. Internally, what I again, it's the same pillar of mine which continue to help me all my life, is being absolutely sincere about my work and remaining fully focused and dedicated and giving it its best. Of course, one is blessed with certain level of IQ, which if it happens to be relatively better than the lot that is there, then you get perceived as a talent to be groomed, which in my case, I wouldn't say that I was highly, I mean, it's a relative term, but the level of talent that was seen by my seniors was quite good. So they kept on investing in me by way of various trainings. So the organization also enriches you by not only giving you a work which is meaningful and value adding, but also in parallel investing a lot in training you. All that you have to do is give your best to whatever facilities are being provided to you, which I kept doing because I was always very ambitious and wanted to be upwardly mobile all the time. So this has been producing good results, always exceeding the expectations of my seniors, and that kept me growing and growing.
What challenges did you face at your time at Bayer, and how did you deal with them?
Uh, in terms of the challenges, I would say when it comes to the knowledge part, technical knowledge, I had a different level of education. I was an engineer by profession, but this was agriculture driven business wherein you need to have a domain knowledge about the crops, the diseases and the pests that come on it, and what kind of chemistries would work for it. It's like almost like a doctor's job. And I wasn't formally trained in that kind of a profession because my education is different. So initially, that posed a lot of challenge, but fortunately, grew into senior and senior roles wherein it was less and less important for me to possess the technical knowledge, because I always had colleagues who were expert in that, and my job was to make use of their expertise.
Right.
But yes, that was one challenge. And I would say, secondly, it's a tough job to do marketing in the agriculture sector, because you travel in India, the road conditions are not good. It's incredibly tiring. It's because you do hundreds of kilometers of journey every day, and it is very, very tiring. The facilities in rural areas are not very good. So you got to be dealing with that kind of a living conditions.
Right.
So that was another challenge, yes.
In one of your positions, you also actually move out of India and live in Germany for a while. I understand until that position, you'd be going on many tours and attend business meetings around the world. Was this the first time you would live outside of India?
Oh, a lot, a lot. You know, once I left the shores of India and began to work outside of India, one realizes, if you think you're a superstar, you realize the limitations of what you don't know, or limitations of how much you know. It's like a frog coming out of a well,
Yeah.
and work with people of different cultures and different ways of working. It's a challenge. And for me, the challenge was multi-layered. I moved to a country which was a non-English speaking country. So I had to learn German language first. So part of my brain was dedicated to learn the language so that I can lead my life there. Then the ways of life there are very different. Learning the German ways of leading life, the way they driving on the other side of the road, which I was not used to. So all walks of life, morning till evening, everything was different. And working with Germans requires different level of skill sets, which I did not possess. Working with Indians is a very different style than working with those people. So a lot of challenges were there, layers and layers of challenges. Plus, on the top of it, I was put into a department which I had never done in my life, which was called ONI, which is basically IT-driven department. The layers and layers of learning that were there, and the job itself was also very different, which I've never done before. So a lot of challenges, but at the same time, a lot of fun, because living in a developed nation like Germany, in a highly organized country with working with a highly organized set of people was really highly value adding and enriching for me.
Right. That's interesting. So after 22 years of working in Bayer, you move on from Bayer to Syngenta. What prompted this transition after being in the company for 22 years?
Yes, so the last my stay when I left Bayer, I was based in Singapore, and in my career progression, my next role would have been anyway returning to the country to take over probably the head of sales job
Yeah,
as one of the possibilities. And Syngenta is another equally big multinational who offered already to me the head of sales job based in Pune. And I had an additional reason because my parents those days were in Pune. My younger brother was also based in Pune. I love the city of Pune, the climate. And in fact, I thought I should settle down in Pune. So this was a golden opportunity for me to then grab it because openings in Syngenta do not come so easily, and
right,
that too for such a senior position. So then I decided to grab it, though it involved for me to return from Singapore to India, but I chose it.
right. So then you spend 9 months at Syngenta and you ultimately end up at your current company, which is Atul Limited. So can you tell us?
Actually, I was there for almost 2 years, or a little less than
Oh, sorry,
two
yeah,
years.
yeah,
Yes, and then they underwent some organization restructuring, which was the global initiative, which warranted them to be organized in India in a different way. And there were then the job, which was my job, was a big job, which they had to split into multiple smaller jobs. And I found there was no job which was doing justice to my level of experience and expertise.
right.
So at the same time, Atul Limited was looking for a president's role which was equally challenging and fulfilling role. So that's how I chose to move to Atul Limited.
So can you tell us a bit more about your current role as the president of Atul Limited? What are your responsibilities? What does the company do?
Yes, so this role which I'm doing is again completely different from what I have done all my life, because in all multinational roles, you are responsible for the set of or the role, the department that you are responsible for, or the activity that you are responsible for, and there is never an integrated end-to-end responsibility. For example, you will not be responsible for manufacturing operations. You will get the products, and then you will have to focus on creating market for it and selling it. In Atul's role, my responsibility is end to end, right from raw material, their procurement, taking decisions on at what price to buy, when to buy, managing the inventory of raw material, packaging material, everything onwards up to manufacturing, R&D, everything which has never been a part of my responsibility in my previous journey. All these are now coming under one roof, and it is literally like running a company myself. So
Right,
end to and how it affects any activity in any department, how it is getting finally reflected into the final profit and loss account of the company. So it's a in real terms a truly P&L role that I'm doing right now, end to end.
that is
And my market here is a global market. Unlike in my previous roles, if I'm responsible for India, I will be looking at only India. But here, everything that we do, we look at world as a market and accordingly set up our plans.
right, right. So what does Atul manufacture? What business is it in?
So Atul is a chemical giant, and it's a 75-year-old company. It was the first ever private sector company inaugurated by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the Prime Minister of India. And company has got activities in multiple sectors of chemicals, aromatics, bulk intermediates, textile colors. Then we have also pharma intermediates and polymers and agrochemicals. I'm responsible for the agrochemicals business unit.
So this is just a side question that I had. In modern day, when I have a conversation with anybody, especially with the flaming organic versus non-organic crops and things, pesticide is often viewed in a negative lens. Do you think that skepticism of consumer is accountable for, or do you think it's just a communication issue?
I think it's a communication issue. Anything in excess is bad, as we know, and anything which is completely absent of something is also bad. Everything in life has a role to play if you do it in an integrated way.
Yeah,
So when you look at your fulfilling your need of food, feed, fiber, everything for human life, you cannot completely disregard one particular methodology as if it is make evil out of it. It doesn't work this way. You need to have a right balance. So what people are making mistake of is either making hero out of something or a demon out of something.
yeah,
Life is not black and white like that. So chemical pest control is one of the options available. Like for example, in our human health, you do need allopathy also. You need good nutrition also. You need good lifestyle, exercise, as well as you need some maybe at times required homeopathy or Ayurveda. All therapies have their own pros and cons, and you need a right mixture of what is needed at the right time. Suppose somebody meets with an accident, instantly no Ayurveda can help. At that time, allopathy and allopathic treatments are required.
right.
Similarly, in our food production also, there are times where you do need a chemical intervention. Otherwise, imagine people who, if you people decide to have only organic food, then can you imagine a poor person having to pay 500 rupees for 1 kg of dal, which today is getting at 100 rupees? This 100 rupees is possible because of the quantum that is getting produced due to
Yeah,
plant protection. Otherwise, it is impossible. See, and you guys can look at the way Sri Lanka went in the recent past. They took a draconian decision of completely stopping the chemicals pest control, and then they had a huge price to pay. Their entire agriculture production dropped, their export revenues dropped, and they were into very massive financial mess. I wouldn't say only due to the decision of stopping the chemical control. There are other factors as well, but this one factor has played a big role in their economic situation they are in. So no extremes are really good.
right. Yeah. So the theme of balance continues. I want to keep your professional life to the side for now and focus on a bit what you do in your free time. So as you've mentioned, one of the core values that you do have is balance. With such an impressive role as the president of Atul, how do you maintain your work life and your personal life? How do you balance your responsibilities and also family time and fun events?
I have a clear-cut mantra for this, and that mantra is decentralization.
Right.
If you try to make every decision yourself and you do not trust your colleagues, then you are loaded with work all the time, and 24/7 you are required to do all the work because you don't trust anyone else with the decision making.
Yeah.
But if you invest in your colleague, in letting them develop, you trust them with some decision making, even if they make a mistake, hold their hands and coach them, then over a period of time, they prove to you that they can do. And sometimes I've seen they do even better job than what you could have done because they have their own teams.
Right.
And it is wrong on any leader's part to think he's the best among the lot. He is not the best. He is the best enabler, maybe. And that is how the leader has to view himself. So once you learn the art of doing that, and that, for doing that, you need to have a lot of self-confidence in yourself. Many people would feel insecure that if I let go of my decision-making rights and controlling rights, then I will be nobody, or these people will become smarter than me. No, that is a wrong thought. I have good amount of self-confidence in myself, so that I don't feel insecure in letting people make decisions. Once that happens, then you have a time available for yourself, which you can then give to your health and your hobbies and your family also. And that enables you to lead a balanced life.
Yeah, that is true. Everybody's life has ups and downs. There are some victories and some failures that occur. For example, when initially when you did not get into the university program that you wanted to, that you faced failure. In my generation, failure is extremely hard to deal with since it's the performance nature of our society portrays it that way. What do you think is a healthy way to deal with failure? How would you process failure and move on while learning from it?
So I think a lot of that responsibility lies in on the parents, the way we raise our kids. If we never get them used to seeing a no, if you make available everything that they want at the moment they ask for it, we confuse our love with something else, and uh, we love them so much, and then we keep giving them everything that they ask for,
Right.
and that we think is our duty. But what happens is the child grows up not learning the art of trying to deal with a denial. and having to deal with limited resources. That art he never learns. And then when he first time faces a denial by external world due to anything, like be it admission to the right college, or be a refusal by a girlfriend, or be it any other denial, then for the boy or girl it becomes very difficult to deal with. So now that is, though it's a role of a parents to therefore coach and groom the children in the right way, but what children can also do is, okay, to tell yourself that every failure is actually an opportunity for you to reflect and learn from it what you learned. And in fact, it makes you even stronger because you have been through that pain, and then you emerge stronger rather than somebody who sees success all the time. That's also not healthy. That makes you arrogant.
Yeah.
So I think if you have the right attitude, it's all question of the right attitude, how you interpret things. And one of the biggest freedom that you need to achieve is a freedom from being bothered about what others would think about you.
Yeah,
If you feel that freedom, then you will be able to do bigger things in life.
that is true. That is very applicable, especially in the age of social media.
Yes.
Apart from all of this, in your personal time, what are some hobbies that you pursue? What do you do for fun?
So I'm an ardent lover of nature. I love nature. I don't like much the hustle bustle of city and the pubs and the discos. These are not the things that I like, but I like nature. So I have been doing a lot of trekking. I
Right.
go out in nature and be with the nature. That is one hobby that I have. Secondly, I love music, especially the Indian music. I grew up listening to Indian music, so I'm yet to develop appreciation and understanding of a non-Indian music. So I enjoy what I know, and so Indian music is another hobby that I have. These two are predominantly the big ones.
Do you still keep up with playing the banjo?
Over a period, unfortunately, that's one of the regrets, that it has been away from me for some years now. But now I am more moving towards my retirement, and post-retirement, I'm going to catch up with my banjos and all other musical instruments that I've been wanting to learn. It's my bucket list.
So, do you listen to more contemporary Indian music or would it be classical?
So I basically love the old Bollywood songs which are coming from the golden eras. And what I mean by golden era is the songs from 1955 to 1980 or 75. These 20 years, according to me, as the best golden years for the Indian music from Bollywood music. So those songs I like, and then classical music I like very much. So vocal or instrumental, either ways. I listen to the classical music. Rag Sohani is one of my favorite ragas. So compositions in that raga really I like. Rag Lalit also I like. So a little bit of classical music also I like. That's it.
Wow, yeah. Gives more
Yeah.
depth to music in general. Final question that I have, which I ask every guest on the show, is that if you could had a time machine and you can go and revisit any moment in your life, what would that be?
I would still would like to go back to my days in Germany. Though one would, it's also I would like to go back to my childhood, but better than the childhood, I liked the my time in Germany very well. The quality of life there was of very high quality, and the kind of enjoyment that I had with the family. That is the best part of my journey so far. So I would like to go back there and relive those moments.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Your values of hard work, dedication, balance have really spoken to me and heavily apply to my current life now. It was a pleasure talking to you and learning from your vast experience. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me and giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts with you. And I hope they help you and the others who would probably listen to this. And my best wishes to you and all your friends and whoever you care for. And please convey my regards to your family as well.
Yeah, thank you so much.